You could fuck your mother in front of the governor and not go to jail.
What's the goal of overall? And yeah, for me as an attorney, I get this is this is something like that.
And I assume you don't go off and tell these conversations to anybody.
No.
Because this is
no, absolutely. So no.
However, other people can make things happen that you don't need to know about. We talk about lots of things that we don't talk about.
You know what? We've been busting people in a deep fucking asshole for 50 years, and we're not going to stop now.
This is part 2 of our undercover investigation into the dark, backroom dealings of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Part 1 blew up on social media, with many Americans wondering why the mainstream media wasn't covering the story. In fact, Project Veritas Action had television exclusives lined up around the country. Those television stations spiked the story at the last minute. Our sources tell us the reason they did so was fear of retaliation and retribution from a future Hillary Clinton administration. Truth is dangerous, especially when it challenges those in power. In this video, Democratic operatives tell us how to successfully commit voter fraud on a massive scale.
A lot of free union guys, they'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
They're rock and roll.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground. Nobody's really supposed to know about me.
You know what I'm saying? We have mentally ill people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake.
This guy named Cesar Vargas is his name. I got a priest to cry on camera once.
You know, Brad and Bob and Lux and myself are all part of the old school method where it doesn't matter what the freaking legal and ethics people say. We need to win this motherfucker.
So Bob is really good friends with him, and talked to him this afternoon. And they are all in. If we can get 25 grand, they're all in.
Our investigators wanted to find out what it would take to get the highest favorable turnout. Democratic politico Scott Foval was our target, and he was more than willing to lead us through the process of how to rig an election.
We did STEM when we were in charge too. So what did we do? We did the exact same thing. Only we manipulated the vote with money and action, not with laws. It's a very easy thing for a Republican to say, well, they're busting people in. Well, you know what? We've been busting people in a deep fucking asshole for 50 years, and we're not going to stop now. We're just going to find a different way to do it. So, I mean, I grew up with that idea. You know, they used to bus people out to Iowa. If we needed people out there, we used to bus people out to Iowa.
When we met Scott Foval, he worked for People for the American Way, an organization funded in large part by George Soros. He now works for Americans United for Change. It's a nonprofit that claims to, quote, move America in a new, better direction, unquote. With guys like Foval working for them, we wonder what direction that might be.
When I do this, I think you're an investigator first.
Good, yeah, work backwards, yes. Yeah, that's great.
I used to do the investigation.
Yeah.
A different method. I think backwards from how they would prosecute if they could, and then try to build out the method to avoid that.
The plan that was discussed was how to bring people from one state into another state to vote illegally.
They could invalidate. Well, okay, let's just say, in theory, if a major investigation came up of major vote fraud that way, how would they prove it and who would they charge? Are they going to charge each individual? Oh, sorry. Are they going to charge each individual with voter fraud?
See, that's what I'm saying.
Are they going to go after the facilitator for conspiracy, which they could prove? And it's one thing if all these people drive up in their personal cars. If there's a bus involved, that changes the dynamic. So it's the legality.
Well, yeah.
Because you can prove conspiracy if there's a bus.
Yeah.
If there are cars, it's much harder to prove.
And there's enough money.
If there's enough money, then you have people drive their POV.
Absolutely.
Or you have them drive rentals.
Yeah, with Wisconsin license plates. Absolutely.
Well, you can't have them with Wisconsin license plates because rentals here, most of them don't have Wisconsin license.
Oh.
But there's these things called used car auctions. Used car auctions, the titles belong to some unknown company. They're company cars.
And you know, these are multiple employers. These are not all one employer.
So Shell,
Yeah.
use shell companies.
Yeah.
Cars come from one company, the paychecks come from another. There's no bus involved, so you can't prove that it's en masse.
There you go.
So it doesn't tip people off.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying.
See, okay, yeah. So now I'm starting to see that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When I do this, I think as an investigator first.
Good. Yeah. Work backwards. Yes. Yeah, that's great.
I used to do the investigation piece.
Yeah.
Different method. I think backwards from how they would prosecute if they could, and then try to build out the method to avoid that.
So, okay, so you're saying shell company, you're saying the car...
if the car
rental
has a Wisconsin license plate and is owned by a third entity, then it's much harder to prove that these people drove in from out of state. There's no bus involved, so you can't prove conspiracy.
And they would have to be looking for them in the first place.
Oh, a bus is something that you're not.
Yeah.
That you're not looking for, or
Exactly.
that you are looking for.
Yeah.
A car.
Our journalist helped brainstorm with Foval on how to come up with addresses for their phony voters.
Now, if we just have the canvassers logging the homes, they don't even have to know why they're doing
Put a
it.
mark on it.
And say, this address, you know, we have moved, but moved could mean someone else moved
Then
in.
you take that data and you flip it out and you give it to people and you have people go vote it. That's brilliant. I love it.
So, yeah, and you know, it sort of depends upon how, you know, how much the canvassers don't have to know why they just need to be told to do. Yeah.
In fact, you don't want them to know.
Right.
The question is whether when you get caught by a reporter, does that matter? Because does it turn into an investigation or not? In this case, in this state, the answer is no. Because they don't have any power to do anything.
Right. So this is sort of maybe not stuff for the general, but stuff to maybe hold off until.
No, I think you could do it for the general. You have to do it in multiple states.
Okay.
So what you do is you implement the plan on a much bigger scale. You implement a massive change in state legislatures and in Congress. So you aim higher for your goals, and then you implement it across every Republican-held state.
I'll let you know what goes with.
So starting on the grassroots,
That's honestly the ripest environment to do it in. Two, within striking distance. Michigan, Indiana. Least restrictive donation caps and campaign finance laws and investigation and any investigative arms and any of that. Like, they have weakened it so bad in these three states. You could fuck your mother in front of the governor and not go to jail. If you had enough money to go like this.
Foval then told our journalist that he knew the guy that makes stuff like this happen.
So Bob Kramer comes up with a lot of these ideas. I work with Bob Kramer one-to-one all the time. I'm the white hat. Democracy Partners is kind of the dark hat. I will probably end up being a partner there at some point. Because our philosophy on this is actually the same.
Bob Kramer founded Democracy Partners in 2011. He is the husband of Jan Schakowsky, a Democratic congresswoman from Chicago, and in 2005 he pled guilty on tax violations and bank fraud. He was convicted and sentenced to 5 months in prison and 11 months of house arrest.
One of the things that Steve was talking to Scott about, he passed on to me, and I think it's one of the reasons why I got in touch with you. He envisioned, you know, what do you need to be able to vote in some of these new voter, what do you really need, okay? What makes you a citizen? And if you look at that checklist, it's an ID card of any kind that shows you who you are,
Right.
and a pay stub that shows you're getting paid at a local address someplace.
I mean, to get registered.
Yeah, to get registered.
Yeah.
So you go in and register. If you have those two things, you're registered to vote.
Yeah.
So if you, let's say I had a business inside of, say, Illinois or Michigan, and I hired people, and I had addresses for them, I could write them checks for those. I could use them as day laborers or whatever, and use them and find my way around the voter registration laws for Hispanics. That's one thing. I'm actually, that idea, when he gave it to me, I was like, that sounds like something we could register huge numbers of people that way. Well, that kind of thing kind of stuck in my craw when he mentioned it to me.
All right, let me, on that front, I'm going to write down these options. Let me see if I can chat with the people who are most involved in Hispanic voter registration.
Okay.
And see what their thoughts are. I mean, there are a couple of different organizations that's their big trick.
Okay, yeah, if you know folks that you can put me in touch with, what if I,
We'll help you do this. I mean, this is very important, this stuff. Turnout is huge.
Because Bob Kramer is diabolical, and I love him for it.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from that man over the last 20 years, I can't even tell you. And he calls me to be his firefighter a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because there are people who, in our movement, who will not do what it takes to get shit done. And I am not that person. I'm the one they send when everything is going to shit. So he spends a lot of time on the phone with my boss, actually, like asking for me to go places that I don't go.
We had our donor set up a second meeting with Bob Kramer to see how he could help put this voter fraud plan into motion.
This is re-enfranchising the voter. That's how I look at it, okay? If I could, through my company, employ these people for a day, okay, or for a week, or for a month, okay? And I could find work for them, useful work for them, and issue corporate IDs for them.
Here's my fear. We can run this by our lawyers.
Okay.
My fear is that someone would decide that this was a big voter fraud scheme.
Kramer hesitated to help our donor pull off the voter fraud scheme that Foval created.
Bob came back to me and asked me, what is he talking about? And I told him what we were talking about.
What you had done.
And he said, well, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole now.
Right.
I go, nor should you.
Good advice.
Nor should you. He goes, good, I'm glad we're on the same page there. I said, however, other people can make things happen that you don't need to know about. And he goes,
so that's where I think this goes.
Yep. But you do understand, he's still going to have to know about it.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Well, I mean, is that okay as long as it's outside of... Okay. Now...
We talk about lots of things that we don't talk about.
Foval told us about a guy in New York that works with Kramer a lot. We wondered if he was the guy who could pull off the voter fraud scheme.
This guy named Cesar Vargas is his name. So Bob is really good friends with him and talked to him this afternoon.
Vargas is an interesting character. He is the co-founder of the Dream Action Coalition, a New York lawyer and a dreamer himself. Born in Mexico, Vargas is an undocumented alien.
What he was had this idea, and Scott made it seem possible, but said it wasn't possible to happen. But I didn't know if it was actually possible. Is, essentially getting a bunch of people, on a bus or whatever, taking them around the country. They legally can vote, so they can vote. At the same time, they're also getting work permits under a different name and voting again on behalf of people who cannot vote.
Right. Yeah, I was to say, can we make something, especially within the midterm elections in 2018? No, this is not going to happen. right?
I know that.
And so I think it's not about, for us, let's see who the next president is. You know, if it's Donald Trump, that it even makes more sense. The issue would be even more incredible and much more opportunity for us to jump into this.
Right.
If it's Secretary Clinton and the 49D laws are loosened and we have much more opportunity for people to vote, and we have immigration reform, it's not going to be as significant, right?
If we cross the bridge, you know, can I count on you to possibly help us do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, count me in.
We don't go off and tell these conversations to anybody.
No.
Because this is technically...
No, absolutely. As an activist, do we want to do this? Do we want to take a chance? Let's talk about it.
We have to do a better job of making our people do what they're supposed to do. Not asking them, making them, not expecting them and taking them for granted, but beating the shit out of them and making them do it.
Like voters.
Yeah.
America, our series of videos from this investigation will continue up until the election. People ask me, James, what can I do? Here's what you can do. Send this video to every single person you know. Demand the mainstream media play these tapes. Email the journalists. Tweet at the journalists. And remember, the truth is dangerous, especially when it challenges those in power.